What is up, guys and gals? Welcome back to another chess video. This is me, JK Jax, back at it again. Today, I'm going to be showing you why offense is the best defense. Let's take this position for example. Here, black has just played the move queen to c8, threatening to take your pawn on h3. Many players here would try to find a way to defend their pawn on h3 with moves such as g4 or king to h2. But what if instead of reacting to your opponent's plans, you carry out your own plan while also stopping the opponent's threats? Well, this is where counterattacks come into play. When many people see a threat in chess, they will usually respond or defend. But why let your opponent's plans dictate your moves? Why not counterattack? One important thing to note is that you also need to know what your opening calls for. For example, this is the Benoni, and if you have played Benoni before, you will know that black wants to go for some sort of queenside expansion with b5 and eventually b4. What does white want? White wants to strike in the center. Whenever black attacks along the wings, it is often a good idea to attack in the center. So of course white wants to play the move e5. However, he can't play e5 now because his h3 pawn is under attack. So instead of looking to defend the pawn, is there a weak pawn you can attack in the position? Yes, there is. The pawn on d6. And if you see that the pawn on d6 is weak, now you think to yourself, what pieces in my position can attack that pawn? Bishop f4. Developing the bishop, making it useful, counter-attacking the pawn on d6. Well, if the opponent takes your pawn on h3, you'll simply take the pawn in the center, attacking the black rook. And therefore, white would be very happy here. White has obtained full control of the center, and black has just spent time taking a useless pawn that you didn't really need anyway, right? So if you understand what your opening calls for as well, you would know that what pawns matters to you the most, or what plans that matters to you, rather than something like h3 that's not very useful. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, we carry out the sequence of this opening. Bishop takes h3, you take the pawn, and they take your bishop. Now some players here would actually take the rook on f8. However, this actually loses, because if you take, remember, offense is the best defense. They don't have to recapture. They can actually create threats of larger value, right? Queen h1 is actually straight up checkmate. So now you need to stop checkmate. The only way to do so is with your knight. Knight h2. And here, they can simply take your rook, threaten another checkmate in one, and after this whole trade, you can see that black is actually up a full piece. Therefore, when the light square bishop takes your light square bishop, you should just recapture, and now black's rook in the corner is under attack. Most likely, the black rook will try to add pressure on the pawn on e4. So now your pawn is under attack, right? The knight, the rook. And how do you defend that pawn? There's actually two ways to do so. One with worst piece principle, and the other one is with offense is the best defense. What I mean by offense is the best defense, you look to counterattack. You take a vulnerable piece, a vulnerable pawn like e4, and turn it into a battling ram with e5. And look at this, with just one move, you solidify your bishop, you attack the knight, you control more squares in the opponent's territory. It is a two-in-one move, you know, killing two stones with one bird, right? And it's fantastic. That is one way to defend the pawn. Another way is, of course, applying the worst piece principle. Just look for your worst piece and defend the pawn in the center, just like that. And this is why sometimes offense is the best defense. And when you combine both that and the worst piece principle together, you will see a great boost in your middle game play. Thank you for watching today's video. Hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.